It is our attitude at the beginning of a difficult task, which more than anything else will affect its successful outcome. On that note, I wish each one of you a very lovely morning and welcome you all to the IIEBM's induction program of 21st batch Ignite 2020. I am Dr. Nitish Srivastava, Associate Professor, IIEBM, your host for the session. This session will be of an hour, where first 40 minutes will be knowledge sharing and rest 20 minutes will be question and answers. You can type your questions in the chat box, which will be addressed at the end of the session. Crime are the measure of a state's failure. All crime in the end is the crime of the community. And to what extent this is true, let us understand from our today's guest, Advocate Siddhant Maligaonkar, as he will talk on elements of crime and functioning of criminal law in COVID-19. So let me introduce Advocate Siddhant Maligaonkar. He is a practicing lawyer at the Pune District and Session Court, Bombay High Court, and the Supreme Court of India from the last 5 years. Today, at a young age, he is a consulting advocate for numerous renowned public, private, and government undertakings as their advocate and consultant, and also a board of director on an IT firm, Viteza Techno Solutions Private Limited, Pune, as well as for a firm in hospitality, Sivaya Food and Beverages Private Limited, Pune. He has written multiple articles in subjects like criminal law, environment law, labor law, law of torts, and in intellectual property rights. He has conducted several training sessions and workshops on elements of crime and criminal law for industries, banks, and chambers of commerce, besides delivering speeches and writing articles. And this is not it. He is a wildlife photographer, and his images were selected by the National Geographical Channel, where he has the youngest photographer for that channel. He is also a wildlife enthusiast and has worked in innumerable national parks in India, published articles in saving the wildlife, and has also participated in many government projects. He is also a part of many NGOs participating in saving environment and wildlife. So without taking much time, let us start the session. And like the IIEBM, we say, let knowledge prevail. Over to you, Mr. Siddhant.
Very good morning, everyone. I'm Advocate Siddhant. Thank you for those wonderful words, ma'am. So we'll directly start with our presentation. I mean, you would just start the presentation, please. Yes. Yeah. So our today's topic is nothing but a very simple one, as we have to understand the basics of law, because of which I've been called here today. So I'll just introduce the topic once to you all. That is elements of crime and functioning of criminal law in COVID-19. I'm sure all of you all have a question. That is, why did the college basically choose criminal law as a subject to teach you all, especially for business management? Because this is, I'm sure, no one wants to join a mafia group. So this business management should not be applied over there. Then why was this subject chosen? A small introduction of this subject is that India is a land of golden hearts. We find almost everything in this beautiful land. So people decided to invade this land, whether they were the Mughals, whether they were the Mughals or any other leaders who wanted to invade India. Similarly, the Britishers also invaded India. When they invaded India, they understood that there has to be a systematic way of handling this particular land. For this systematic way, they decided to draft a lot of laws, and some of them are also being used even today. For example, that we talk about the Indian Penal Code, IPC, or the procedural facts that we use today, the CRPC, that is the Criminal Procedure Code, or the CPC, that is the Civil Procedure Code. So all these laws were drafted by the by the Englishmen, which have been used by us. Now, when we talk about criminal law, I do not want to use any big jargon to describe the subject, as it is as simple as your thoughts. We all know that hitting someone is a criminal offense. We just don't know the provision for it. That is section 323 of the IPC. So to understand this subject, we have to only understand the basic elements of this subject. And to understand the basic elements, we shall go one in detail. Okay. Now, what is an offense? To start with, when we talk about criminal law, all the laws today are interconnected. As tomorrow's business tycoons, you all have to understand that all these laws go hand in hand. Okay, a criminal offense is a type of a wrongdoing that we distinguish from a civil wrong. So basically, which is prescribed as a punishment in the law books is nothing but criminal law. So whenever an offense which has a criminal punishment, what is a criminal punishment? Criminal punishment is of two types. One, where there is imprisonment, that is going behind the bars, which no one wants. And the second is by fine. So this fine can be replaced by two ways. One is by hello. One is by going behind the bars, or the second is by fine. So when we talk about criminal law, what is an offense? The basics of it. Anything that we do wrong, which is not allowed in public or at a society at large, is understood to be as an offense. As simple as that. For example, I am sitting with my friend at a restaurant having a wonderful meal. We have a small fight. He picks up a bottle and he decides to hit me with it. Is it allowed? It's not. So when this thing is not allowed, there is also a punishment prescribed by law, and this punishment is governed by the criminal law. Now, similarly, as we talk about companies or any other venture that we all want to be a part of tomorrow, over there are many offenses which happen, and these offenses have been classified over time and understood. All these offenses have been very carefully classified over the time, and a lot of new laws have been developed because of this. As rightly mentioned in the third point of what is an offense, that there is a provision prescribed in most of the laws, example Factories Act, Income Tax Act, or any other act. Now, why did I specifically write Factories Act or the Shop Act over there? The reason behind it is there are provisions of criminal offenses mentioned in them. For example, I represent a lot of companies all over Pune and Bombay. The best example I can give you is of Higher Electronics. We all know Higher Electronics is a Chinese company into manufacturing of TV, fridge, and all of that. I am the criminal consultant and a criminal lawyer for them. So I have a lot of criminal cases on them, and you'll be surprised that these cases are nothing but a hogwash. What do you mean by a hogwash? They're basically nothing but this unsubstantial piece of criminal offenses against them. They have a criminal offense against them of using or putting some substance, for example, like a gas cylinder, when they were trying to get it in their factory and were kept outside the gate. And a criminal offense was filed against them because under the Factories Act, doing anything of such sort or using a land which is not prescribed to you by the Factories Act and using it for your personal benefit is not allowed, and a criminal offense against them. You'll be surprised that the owner of Hire, his name is Song Yong. He is a Chinese businessman tycoon based out in China. He is not even aware of the criminal cases on his head because of criminal lawyers like me. The management had approached me and we have almost dealt with all of their cases. Moving on. When we talk about after what is an offense, what is a crime? There is a difference between an offense and a crime. Okay? An offense is something which can be done by anyone at public and which is morally illegal also. At the very same time, a crime is something which is morally illegal as well as immoral in nature. When we talk about this, what does it mean? An unfull act which is basically punishable by the state. As I already mentioned rightly before this, that anything which is a law, which is punishable in nature, is nothing but criminal law. And that only it has to be understood and nothing apart from that. Prohibited by law. When we talk about prohibited by law, something which is not allowed by law basically itself. Okay. Now these all small ideas have to be implemented pretty well in your day-to-day routine, because of which you can stop crime also and also understand if something is going wrong at any moment. Moving on to the third point, illegality or immorality act that endangers or aggravates individuals or society. Okay. Now, for example, I'm sitting with my friend at the very same restaurant having dinner with him, and one of my friends provokes me to hit him. This provocation is also understood to be an illegal act by law. We have to understand that law is divided in such a way that all the small lacunas and all the small offenses that have been prescribed are very prescribed in detail by law, and they all are taken care very minutely. Moving on, what do we need to understand about law? Now, this is very important. There are four stages that we have to understand. The first one is category of crime. When we talk about categories of crime, which I will address you, next is the stages of crime. Then are the elements of crime, which is the most important thing. And the second most important thing is intention and motive. So these four things will help you understand as to what is a crime and how you can implement in your day-to-day life. As I rightly mentioned before this, that all the laws are interconnected today. Today, every civil dispute also has a criminal addition to it. At the very same time, every normal labor dispute is also dragged into the criminal court. I just received a call from one of the union leaders in Pune yesterday. He was representing a union. We all are aware that big companies have a lot of workmen, and these workmen team up together and form a union, which is represented maybe by a union leader. So one of Pune's most renowned union leader called me up yesterday, saying that he has an FIR registered against him for extortion. Extortion because he demanded a few things to the company, which was legally his right. So legally, a union can talk to another union. Example that we can talk right now is about Tata, Telcos Union. That is one of India's most largest union that we have. So in one of the companies over here, the union leader called me up and said that he's been accused of extortion. When we talk about the details, it's very important to understand as to what category it went through, as to what stage it had, and as to what elements it carries, and does it have intention and motive. That is why criminal law is divided into these four easy aspects to understand. The first one, categories of crime. Now, there are a few categories of crime which have already been prescribed in law before, and some have evolved over time. The first one is crime against a person. When we talk about crime against a person, the first thing that comes to our head is bodily offenses. I'm walking with my friend on the road. Someone tries to rob me. At that moment, I decide to hit him. Or I'm walking on the road and a friend is with me and we have a small quarrel and we decide to transfer that into a physical fight. At such a time, this offense is against a particular person. And as I rightly mentioned, that with law, there are a lot of prescribed laws that have also developed. And the recent addition to all this is the Sexual Harassment Act, which all should all emphasize onto. Moving on is the crime against morality, something which is immoral in nature altogether. Example that we have is the NDPS Act, that is Narcotics and Drugs Act. At the very same time, we have a lot of other acts like the PETA Act. The PETA Act is prevention of immoral trafficking of it's the prevention of immoral trafficking. This is avoiding any type of human trafficking. So something which is immoral in nature is also being prescribed as a law today. When we talk about crimes against property, now crimes against property, as you see in the image, is not only stealing. There are a lot of there's a lot of depth in that. When we talk about property, property is something that is under possession of, under the possession with someone. And when we talk about possession, possession is explained by two ways. One, when a person has clear ownership of that property, and that ownership of the property is got with possession, and it is registered under his name. So no matter what it has to be registered on your name. Example, when we talk about a car is in your possession. You have the rights of owning that property, and you can legally take it. Now, when someone steals your car, is a crime against property, which is the most common thing seen in a lot of companies. Okay, moving on is white collar crime. We're all aware of Vijay Malia. He did approximately a 15,000 crore fraud. Or when we talk about DSK in Pune, or a lot of other people, there is law to address all these white collar criminals as well. Just a recent example, a few days back, approximately last Wednesday, I appeared in court for this particular client of mine who has done a fraud of 150 crores altogether, which is disputed. There is a difference between an accusation and proving it. So when we talk about white collar crime, anything that uh, involves a lot of money altogether is ruled by the new prescribed law, which is called as MPID. MPID is for economic offense. And the last one, when we talk about, is is organized crime. What is organized crime? Organized crime is where there is a proper planning done and there is a series of offenses that take place. When we talk about series of offenses, the best example that comes to my head is when we talk clearly about a group. A group of five friends come together and decide that we will rob this particular house. Now, robbery can only be done when there are less than five people. When there are more than five people, the robbery is converted into dacoity. So, when five people decide to rob a particular house, that becomes dacoity. At that particular moment, they decide to rob one house, second house, third house, fourth house, fifth house. There is a series of offenses of five or more than people who are continuously doing the same offense and have a connection and a nexus with each other. At such time, this is an organized offense. When we talk about organized offense, the new law which is drafted, or which is a very old law which is drafted, but has a lot of new amendments by the Supreme Court of India, is MOCA. Maharashtra Maharashtra Control of Organized Crime. Moving on. As we already spoken about the classification of our offenses. The first one is, as we spoke about, is offense against a particular person. That is murder, culpable homicide, kidnapping, abduction, assault. Crimes against property, as I rightly pointed out, dacoity. Dacoity can be only done when there are more than five people, and robbery is when there are less than five people. Theft is when it's done by a single person. Theft is nothing but owning a particular property from someone with ill intention. When we talk about intentions, I will address that later. But intentions and motive are the two most important things which have to be seen in any crime. These words should be as two highlighters in front of you and has to be taken and as a part and parcel of each and every offense. Next, when we talk about crimes against public order, which we all are aware are riots, economic offenses, that may be cheating, or the most common thing that we hear, 420. इसने मेरे साथ 420 की है. That is also a form of an economic offense and can also be classified into offense. Can also be classified as crimes against property. Crime against women is the most hot topic at the moment, and a lot of new laws have developed for them, which is a very good thing because it safeguards the interest of women at the end of the day. And there are specific laws only for women. When we talk about the Sexual Harassment Act as well, Sexual Harassment Act, the title itself reads sexual harassment of women at workplace and not men. I remember a very funny incident that happened. I got a sexual harassment case in one of the companies I represent, and a manager was sexually assaulting another driver over there. At that moment, that person who came was the manager, was my client. When we addressed court, it was nothing but a false allegation made against my client. And the front lawyer was pretty emphasizing on the word sexual harassment that was taken at workplace. But I only won the case on a very simple title which says sexual harassment for women at workplace and not men. Men are not included in that. Moving on, crime against children. We are aware there are a lot of new laws that have come for children. The most recent one is POCSO, which is Prevention of Sexual Activities Against Children, and which is one of the most strict law in India right now. And the other offenses and the other crimes. Moving on, the stages of a crime. Now, this is very important to understand as to what a crime is. As tomorrow's business tycoon, you have to understand that there are places where these four elements that are on your screen right now are very important for a crime to take place. And this is the start of any crime. First is an ill intention. It's very difficult to understand someone's intention. But as tomorrow's business tycoon, you'll have to understand and sit there and grasp this intention of a particular person. Stages of a crime when we're talking about. Intention and preparation come together, which creates a criminal liability altogether. This is a start. We all know this movie. I don't know how many of y'all have seen it. It's an Akshay Kumar movie with Anupam Kher in it, which is called as Special 26. In Special 26, Anupam Kher is interrogated by a police officer, and the other police officers tell him, "Why don't you just arrest Anupam Kher?" If I'm not mistaken, I think Manoj Vajpayee or Manoj Tiwari is one of the actors in that. And he said that सिर्फ सोचने के लिए सजा नहीं होती है. So for ill intention, there is no punishment. But when is the punishment? The punishment is when you attempt for the crime or you commit the crime. That is commission of a crime. So when we talk about stages of a crime, it's divided into two simple parts. One is intention and preparation. Preparation is also understood to be as a criminal offense under a few sections of the IPC. And the preparation has to be of such an extent of proving the crime, then and only then a person can be arrested with the new laws that have been amended and by the Supreme Court case laws that have come. When we talk about attempt and commission, we are very aware that once a person has an intention and has prepared for it, the next step would be to attempt for it, and there is a punishment for attempt. And the next one is for commission of the crime. That is finally completing the crime. And these are the four main stages of any crime that takes place. Now, this is the most important part when we talk about element of crime, and which is our subject to talk today as well. When we talk about element of crime, there are two things that have to be very importantly seen. One is actus reus, and the second is mens rea. In simple words, what is actus reus? Actus reus is an act committed by a particular person. And when we talk about mens rea is the mental state of performing a particular crime. Actus reus and mens rea both have to be present in each and every criminal offense. For example, as we already mentioned before, I'm walking with my friend on the street. My friend uses foul words against me. Using foul words is also a criminal offense. So how do we add actus rea and mens rea in it? I must have said a few irritated words to my friend, because of which his mental state became of such a place where he could abuse me or use foul language. His practically abusing me becomes the actus reus, that is the act that is committed by him, and his mens rea is the mental state of irritation that has caused this act. I think criminal law is not very difficult to understand. In today's time, as we see, Crime Patrol is one of the main sources of understanding criminal law for most of the Indians today. They feel watching Crime Patrol makes them understand 100% of the criminal law, but which is not that. But in every Crime Patrol episode, they have shown two things. What is the mental state of that person to commit this particular crime? When we talk about serial killers have a particular mental state. That is why they commit this particular actus reus. That is the act committed or the crime that is committed. So whenever it is elements of crime, there are only two main elements of crime. That is actus reus and mens rea. When we talk about bodily offenses like murder also, what is the mental state of a particular person when he tries to commit a particular offense? That is like murder. Or when we talk about rape in specific. There was a lot of debate in India that took place that why isn't there a proper deterrent punishment when we talk about rape laws in India. The only thought behind it is because the Supreme Court is one of the most learned houses in India, I would say. They have done an intense research on this and have divided this into two major aspects, that is mens rea and actus rea. They have understood that the mens rea is not something which would always continue for an actus rea. That means the mental state will not always continue for an act that has to be committed. And for this only reason that the mental state for performing an offense may change over time, the punishment also changes, which has to be understood in a very broader manner, as the mental state is not something which is in anyone's control. Moving on, categories of mens rea. Criminal intention. So the first category for mens rea, that is for a mental thought that has to be proven. Why have I added this slide? Is because first there was only punishment prescribed in India for the actus reus, and mens rea has to be added with that. Nowadays, as we saw the first slide, we saw the slide which is behind this. I'll just go to it. Intention and preparation. Nowadays, there is even punishment for intention and preparation, and intention is nothing but a mental state of a person. And that is the reason I have added this slide to understand as to what is mens rea and what is the mental state of a person. And intention, criminal intention has to be present. As we spoke about theft, for example, my phone has fallen down in the middle of the road. A person comes from behind, looks at my phone, looks around, he sees no one. His intention itself is of bad in nature, that is a criminal intention. He bends down, picks up my phone, knowing that it is not of his possession, it is not of his ownership, and takes my phone and runs away. Now, you have to understand that his mental state is of such which causes or which goes ahead and causes him to do such an offense. Second is negligence. A few last year during the rainy season, there was a case that happened in Pune where there was a wall that fell down and 15 people died. In that heavy rainfall, there was a few landslides that took place and a big wall fell down and 15 workers that died. And Kondwa, I'm the representing lawyer because there are a lot of accused in it for one of them. So my client, when we were defending ourselves, we clearly spoke about the negligence part. My client had taken all precautionary measures to safeguard him and others from falling off anything of such sort. But the final building of the wall was not done in such a way. That means there was negligence. Negligence can also be a new form of mental state when I neglect to do something. Example, I come home, I switch on the gas, I get my friend's call, so I go away. Later, I come back and I directly switch on another gas to boil water and I light it. This negligence can also cause death of others. It has to be understood, which is a mental state. Okay. When we talk about recklessness, recklessness is a form and nothing of negligence. When you are not of the attitude of doing something with a full heartedness. And the last one is wrongful knowledge. When you are not aware of a particular thing and you commit and you do a particular act, for example, when we talk about a bus driver doesn't know how to change gears fast, because of which, when he's climbing a particular ghat, he misses a gear and the bus goes down. This wrongful act has caused his mental state for causing accessories, which is the particular act. Moving on. The another two most important elements for any crime. Now, we have already spoken about mens rea and actus reus. Mens rea is what? The mental state. Actus reus is performing that particular act. When a particular act is performed and the commission of an offense is done, there are two more elements which have to be added in there. That is motive and intention, which is very well prescribed in the IPC as two different laws altogether. Also, a third one which is added, that is the object of causing this. What is motive? Motive is the ulterior object behind a particular act, and every act has in each and every kind of motive, maybe good or bad. Today, your college has decided to arrange this webinar. This is also a particular motive they have behind it, is to educate them, which is one of a good, which is one of the good motives that they carry, considered to be relevant in criminal law. Motive is the most important thing that is to be considered in commission of any crime that takes place, no matter what it is. What am I going to ultimately gain out of it has to be understood. When we talk about murder, I represent a lot of clients who are falsely accused of murder. And when we talk about this, the first thing that I want to prove in court is the motive behind it. But when we talk about for students like yours, what is the motive that you have to understand? Is the motive that a particular employee of yours carries it out in your particular company. You have to understand his motive, and then it's similarly tagged along with the intention. Intention is the thing you can plan to do and achieve. And intention is always clubbed with motive. There is a motive, that is why there is intention. There is intention, that is why there is motive. And both go hand in hand, which are key elements for commission of any offense. The most recent example that I can remember, there is a particular company that I represent, which is called as FEV. FEV is a German company. We all are aware that the Volkswagen emission problem had happened a few years back, which was sent for testing. It was sent for testing to this company called as FEV, which I represent as a lawyer. In FEV, there was this particular person who had a laptop given by the company. He received a particular file on his mobile on WhatsApp. He couldn't open the file, so he decided to connect his mobile to the laptop. When he connected his mobile to the laptop and he opened the file on the laptop, he saw that there were a few pornographic movies which were of child pornography. Now, according to the new prescribed law, which I already spoke about, POCSO, Prevention of Sexual Activities Against Children, possession of pornographic movies or photos of children itself is an offense. As he saw it, his motive was good in nature. That is why he immediately deleted it and he shut it. What is the motive of the company behind it? Is to safeguard the company. This German company has a watch on each and every laptop from Germany itself. From Germany, they monitored this and they understood that someone has the possession of something illegal which is not allowed by law. They immediately called up the Indian office and told him, he was an IIT, I remember, told him to take immediate action. But during his inquiry, one point which came up was his motive good or bad? And did he have an intention to do this particular offense? So understanding motive and intention is very important in commission of each and every offense. FIR. Now, we've heard this term, as was rightly mentioned, in a lot of crime patrol series as well as and from our friends also, or we just have heard this term here and there. What does FIR actually mean? FIR is the first information report. First information report, when we talk about is the first information the police receives. Okay, the information that the police officer receives about commission of a cognizable offense. There are two types of offenses, cognizable and non-cognizable. I'll address that later. We just get done with FIR first. A cognizance of an offense is taken when the society is set at alarm. For example, there is a particular dacoity that has been committed next to my house. The police have to take immediate action onto this, and the police decide to act upon it also immediately. Because this is a particular offense that needs immediate attention. Okay, the police can file a FIR only in a cognizable offense. Cognizable offenses usually carry a sentence of 3 years or more. When we talk about FIR is only filed when the society is set at alarm. When the society is not set at alarm, then what is done? Then we come to the two main aspects, as I was rightly addressing before this, that is cognizable offense and non-cognizable offense. I'll make it very simple to you. Cognizance of a cognizable offense is something where the police can act without a warrant. The pictures rightly show all the cognizable offenses next to yours: murder, fighting, rape, stealing, kidnapping, abducting, extortion, using criminal force. So these all offenses are cognizable offenses where the police have to act upon immediately, so the society, no one other than the particular victim, no other person gets harmed. That is why the police can immediately act upon it without a particular warrant. Then what is a non-cognizable offense? A non-cognizable offense is where the society is not set at alarm. Now, this is what happens in most of the companies, which has to be understood. Example, I'm sitting with my particular friend in a particular restaurant. We're having a chit chat. In that chit chat, he decides to defame me. Now, defamation is also a criminal offense. When he decides to defame me, he uses some unpleasant words against me. That is heard by everyone. I get really upset. I go to the police and I tell them, you file an FIR immediately against my friend. This is not tolerated. I have not liked my friend's behavior. I'm not going to appreciate this. Police says, this is a fight between you and your friend. The police did not need to do investigation right away. And the society is not set at alarm. So there is no need itself for filing of an FIR. Then there is a particular register which is called as an NC register, and that NC register is a non-cognizable register in which all these particular offenses have been registered. Okay, moving on, we talk about what is bail. Now, in simple words, bail is the release from the custody of a person charged with an offense. When a person is charged with an offense, he's produced before the court, and when he has to be released out, he has to tell the court or swear on oath that he would follow particular conditions. What are these conditions? These conditions are that he would attend court on each and every day. He would make sure that he doesn't run away. He would even give someone as a surety. My friend would stand as a surety, saying that I know that this person, Advocate Siddhant Malegaonkar, is a nice man and he will not run away. That is why bail is given by my friend. Now, you'll be surprised. A few days back, I bailed out two of my clients for murder. And the court has put a condition that I am giving them bail on this condition that in this pandemic situation, they have to wear a mask. And this has to be followed. I was very amused with the fact of reading that bail order altogether. Now, what is bailable offense and non-bailable offense? The most simplest trick of understanding this. An offense which is bailable and mentioned in the first schedule, that is the book or the IPC, is a bailable offense, and the offense which is mentioned as non-bailable in the first schedule is a non-bailable offense. As simple as that. Something which is mentioned, which is a bailable offense, is a bailable offense. Something which is mentioned as a non-bailable offense is a non-bailable offense. Moving on. What is an anticipatory bail? This is a very important thing which you have to understand. Now, in your first schedule, that is in the law books, when a particular offense is mentioned as a non-bailable offense, where when it's mentioned as a bailable offense, it's a bailable offense. Where it's mentioned as a non-bailable offense, it's a non-bailable offense. In a non-bailable offense, where you feel you haven't done a particular crime, but are getting falsely accused, or there is no need for police custody itself, or there is no need for dragging me itself in that crime, and I anticipate my arrest, that is the time you can file for an anticipatory bail. The most the example which I can see right now is a few days back I argued a matter for a friend of for a client of mine who had who was falsely been accused in a company of uh, of money laundering and using money in an inadequate manner. At that time, an FIR was filed against us, and as we got information, my client came and told me this is absolutely false. And looking at the evidence, he filed for an immediate anticipatory bail. So bail is given before you are arrested under particular conditions. So anticipatory bail is nothing but bail that is granted before you are arrested. Moving on. Can you get anticipatory bail before filing of a particular FIR? The answer to this is a simple yes. You have to tell the court is that you are apprehending your arrest. There is a particular fraud that has been committed in a particular company, and everyone in that company have decided that they are going to accuse me of it. I have realized it from a form of our cry itself. I am understood that everyone has turned a blind eye towards my defenses and have decided to accuse me. At that time, there is no FIR filed, but I moved to particular court saying that a non-bailable FIR can be filed and I can be arrested for no reason, so I should be granted bail. So bail can also be granted, anticipatory bail can also be granted even when there is no filing of an FIR. Moving on, contempt of court, which is very important for all of you to understand. Contempt of court is an order or the terms given by the court which are not followed. So when a court passes a particular order, for recently, as I told you, in one of my cases, the court made an order that my client should be released on bail only if they decide to wear a mask in this pandemic situation. And they decided to wear a mask. And if they don't wear a mask, that is violating the rule of court or violating the condition put by court, which is nothing but contempt of court. By not following a court order, clearly means that you have committed a criminal offense. Moving on. Criminal justice system in COVID-19. Yes. Now here we address the main and the second topic of today after element of crime is the criminal justice system in COVID-19. Now we are aware that COVID-19, this outbreak, has caused a lot of people to understand new ventures. Similarly, the law has also or is also developing according to this new developed time. As we are having this webinar, I generally take lectures in person and I prefer an interactive session. But at this moment, we see because of COVID-19, we are having a webinar where I'm talking and later you all can ask me questions. And in this particular way, the law has also developed. Now, this is very important for all you new business cycles to understand. Why? It's because law now is going to function online. Now, the current situation of court is that there is no matter that is going on except bail. That too under urgent circumstances. Under urgent circumstances, only bail has been taken. Apart from that, there is no work because people itself have to be present in court to testify a particular thing. For this, we have to understand that the new COVID laws or the new way of understanding laws is because of COVID-19 or the outbreak of COVID-19. Now, they have led and developed new ways of negotiation, which is one of the most important things. Second is litigation is minimized because of this, and the form and the way of addressing litigation has also changed. The first step before anything is a criminal notice or a particular notice. When you send a legal notice to someone when he's not followed the law and you want to inform him that you have not followed the law and to set on particular conditions. For example, the defamation case we spoke about. When we spoke about the defamation case, at that very moment, uh, that fight between me and my friend, I went to the police. The police said you can file an NC complaint. This FIR cannot be done. I said okay. So I decided to send him a legal notice. I sent him a legal notice, but a legal notice first was only and only sent by RPAD, that is registered post. In today's time, email and WhatsApp is also being used as a means of legal notice. Okay. Now the last and the final thing that we would address today is notification. Now, as we read clearly, notifications are formal announcements made by the government in the Gazette of India. Now, the government has made a particular notification. We as Indians have a tendency of not following laws till they are not being told to us. And this is a common thing that is in our head. A notification can be given by any superior officer, by the High Court or the Supreme Court or by the government. Now, these notifications are laws. Okay. And under the Disaster Management Act and under the IPC, these notifications have to be addressed as laws. A few days back, there was a notification that came up which clearly spoke that no one has to be terminated or removed from the service or from that employment unless the next notification comes. Now, a notification is also an advisory which is passed by any government service. We would read the first line again. Notifications are formal announcements made by the government in any form. So notification is also an advisory which can be passed by the government, and an advisory has to be followed. If it's not followed under section 188 of the IPC itself, it causes disobedience of a particular order, and this disobedience itself is a criminal law, and it causes violation of the Disaster Management Act. Now, when we talk about criminal law, we just have a very fast recap where we address 5 elements altogether. First one is mens rea and access rea, which is very important for commission of any offense. So in your company or anywhere, you have to understand that if it is a criminal offense, there have to be 2 things present. That is mens rea, that is the mental state, and access rea, that is the act of it. Along with that, is the motive and intention which has to be present. And these all things have to be prescribed as an offense under law. If you understand this concept, criminal law is very easy. And then a lot of companies that I represent, these 4 elements or these elements that I have just mentioned right now are the only trick of understanding for a particular offense that takes place, which avoids or which will avoid any offense that takes place at any company. Because as tomorrow's business tycoons, we will be heading with companies and different formats of business where you have to understand and grasp these 4 things itself. That is the intention, motive, mens rea, actus reus, and this has to be prescribed as a punishment under criminal law. I think a small briefing session to criminal law would be to this itself. Yes, ma'am. I would like to answer if there are any questions. Ma'am, I cannot hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
now you can hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Siddhant. We learned a lot of things today. Uh, from mental state of the criminals to the actual conduct of crime, relation of motive and intention, and you gave us a real food for thought today. I'm sure that we will definitely have, actually we have a lot of questions, but right now we are running out of time as we begin a little late today, and we have another session lined up just after you. So I think we will definitely have one more session wherein you would be addressing the question and answers from the students based on this session. And it was really a pleasure having you here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Students have to stay